Jodi Arias and Travis Alexander initially appeared to be the ideal couple, attractive, ambitious, and deeply drawn to each other. Jodi, with her captivating looks and charming personality, seemed like the perfect match for Travis, a motivational speaker and devoted member of the Mormon faith. Their connection ignited quickly after meeting at a company conference in Las Vegas in 2006. Within days, their relationship took off with the kind of intensity that felt electric. Jodi even converted to the Mormon religion to be closer to Travis' world, but passion alone couldn't sustain what lay underneath. Their seemingly perfect bond began unraveling as darker feelings like jealousy, obsession, and control started taking over. At first, Travis enjoyed the intensity of their connection, but as Jodi's behavior grew increasingly erratic, he began to pull away. She became possessive, often questioning him about his interactions with other women, monitoring his social media, and showing up unannounced when he spent time with friends. By 2007, their relationship was in shambles. Travis attempted to break free from Jodi, but their physical connection kept pulling them back into the same toxic cycle. They would break up, then reconcile, only for the pattern to repeat. Meanwhile, Travis had begun dating other women, eager to move forward with his life. Jodi, however, couldn't let him go. She continued visiting him, trying to keep her hold on his affections even as their emotional bond had long since frayed. To his friends, Jodi was an alarming presence, someone who seemed increasingly unstable and determined to stay in Travis's life no matter the cost. Everything came to a head on June 4th, 2008. That day, Jodi drove over 1,000 miles from her home in Eureka, California, to Mesa, Arizona, to visit Travis under the pretense of a friendly reunion. She arrived late at night, claiming she wanted to see him one last time. Despite their troubled past, Travis welcomed her in. Perhaps he believed this would finally be the visit that closed the chapter on their tumultuous relationship. What transpired in the next few hours, however, would forever change both of their lives. The night began peacefully. The two spent hours together, engaging in what seemed like a final, intimate encounter. They took photos of one another, Jodi posing provocatively and Travis smiling into the camera, unaware of the grim events that were about to unfold. These photographs, later discovered on Travis's digital camera, would become critical evidence in the case against Jodi. As the night stretched into the early hours of the morning, something shifted. Whether an argument erupted over Travis's newfound interest in other women or Jodi's refusal to accept the end of their relationship, we may never know. But what followed was a sudden eruption of violence. Jodi, overwhelmed by jealousy and her obsessive need to control Travis, acted in a frenzy. The first blow came without warning. Travis, taken by surprise, was defenseless. His shock quickly turned to panic as he realized the extent of Jodi's rage. She struck again and again, her fury unstoppable. Desperately, Travis attempted to flee, stumbling toward the bathroom in an effort to escape. But Jodi followed closely behind, her assault growing more vicious with each step. The violence was overwhelming. In a scene that would later be described as unimaginable, Travis was struck 27 times as he tried to shield himself from Jodi's attack. His strength waned and he collapsed in the hallway, struggling to survive, but Jodi's anger had not yet been satisfied. She dragged him into the shower, where she continued her assault, inflicting a final gruesome injury that silenced him forever. The silence that followed was chilling. Jodi, now standing over Travis, was covered in his blood. The sheer brutality of what she had done must have sunk in, but instead of panic, she remained calm. Her next steps were cold and calculated. She knew she had to clean up the scene. Methodically, she began washing herself and wiping away the evidence. She even threw the camera, filled with incriminating photos, into the washing machine, hoping to destroy any proof of her presence that night. In her mind, the plan was flawless. Jodi left the house, her mind set on the next stage of her life, as if nothing had happened. She embarked on a road trip to Utah, where she planned to meet another romantic interest. Along the way, she called friends, pretending to be carefree and flirtatious, hiding any trace of the terror that had unfolded just hours before. Meanwhile, days passed without any sign of Travis. His friends, worried by his absence, decided to check on him. They entered his house calling out for him, but the eerie silence that greeted them only fueled their concern. They made their way to the master bathroom where the gruesome reality hit them like a wave. There, in the shower, was Travis's lifeless body, slumped and covered in blood. The scene was horrifying, beyond anything they could have imagined. Shocked and terrified, they immediately called the police. The discovery of Travis's body sent shockwaves through his community. Who could have done this? How could such a brutal act have been carried out against someone so well-liked and respected? Travis had been a devout member of the Mormon Church, a motivational speaker with a bright future ahead. His friends and family were left reeling in the aftermath, struggling to understand the senseless violence that had claimed his life. Initially, Jody was not an obvious suspect. She played the role of a heartbroken ex-girlfriend, offering her help to the police in their investigation. She called friends, expressing her sorrow over Travis's tragic fate. But as the authorities began digging deeper into the events leading up to that night, Jody's carefully crafted facade started to unravel. Her erratic behavior, her refusal to let Travis go, and the damning evidence left behind at the scene would soon point to her as the mastermind behind one of the most notorious betrayals in recent history: the FBI investigation. The brutal discovery of Travis Alexander's body sent shockwaves through his friends and family. Travis, a well-liked motivational speaker with deep ties to his Mormon community, could not have possibly been the victim of such a horrific act, at least that's what everyone thought. The crime scene was nothing short of terrifying, and the investigators knew that they had a daunting task ahead of them. The FBI was quickly involved due to the suspicious nature of the crime and the fact that Travis had a wide range of acquaintances across several states. With Travis gone, his home became a crime scene riddled with painful memories and clues waiting to be unraveled. From the moment the FBI arrived, it was clear they were dealing with something far more personal than a random act of violence. The violence inflicted upon Travis was intimate, deliberate, and filled with rage. This wasn't the work of a stranger. The savagery of the attack told a story of betrayal and obsession. The agents immediately turned their attention to those closest to him: friends, family, and ex-girlfriends. Within hours, the FBI combed through the evidence, meticulously documenting every aspect of the crime scene. Travis's body had been found in the shower, and nearby were the remnants of the life he'd lived before everything fell apart. His computer, phone, and belongings were searched for any clue that could link to a suspect. His phone records and text messages revealed an extensive communication history with one particular woman, Jodi Arias. The name Jodi Arias quickly became a central focus for the investigation. The FBI couldn't ignore the troubling reports from Travis's friends, who described Jodi as possessive, jealous, and unable to let go of her relationship with Travis. They recalled instances where Jodi would show up uninvited at his home, or even go through his phone when she felt he was being distant. These accounts added weight to the FBI's suspicions. The search for evidence continued, and it wasn't long before the agents stumbled upon something chilling: a digital camera found in the washing machine. The camera's condition made it seem unlikely that anything could be retrieved, but the FBI's forensics team worked tirelessly to recover any traces of the last moments before Travis's death. What they discovered would become pivotal to the entire investigation. The camera contained a series of photos, some explicit, taken just hours before Travis's life was violently ended. The photos told a bizarre story. Jodi Arias had not only been with Travis on the day he died, but she had documented their time together through pictures, images of intimacy, and moments that should have been harmless. However, toward the end of the photo reel, the images took a disturbing turn. Blurry, unsteady images of what looked like an injured Travis in the shower confirmed the FBI's worst fears. These final cryptic snapshots showed a horrific reality, frozen in time. While the evidence from the camera was damning, the FBI needed more concrete proof before making their move. They needed to understand the motive and sequence of events that led to that fateful night. Agents began interrogating Jodi's friends and family, piecing together a timeline of her movements. They quickly learned that on the day of Travis's death, Jodi had embarked on a long road trip across several states. This road trip had been initially dismissed as a regular excursion, but now it appeared to be the perfect cover for her crime. As the FBI dug deeper, the story took an even stranger turn. Jodi had made several phone calls during her journey, seemingly carefree and flirtatious as she spoke with a new romantic interest she was planning to visit in Utah. These calls were jarringly out of place for someone who had just been involved in a gruesome crime. Her behavior didn't align with the level of violence inflicted upon Travis, and yet the FBI knew it was all part of her facade. The pressure was mounting, and the FBI decided to bring Jodi in for questioning. She had initially cooperated with the investigation, playing the role of a grieving ex-girlfriend shocked by the news of Travis's death. But when the agents confronted her with the photos from the camera, her demeanor changed. She denied any involvement, claiming she hadn't been in Arizona at the time of Travis's death. She fabricated an alibi, insisting she had been nowhere near him. However, the photographic evidence painted a different picture. Jodi's initial composure started to crack as the FBI pressed harder, picking apart her timeline and exposing the inconsistencies in her story. She grew defensive, weaving elaborate lies in an attempt to mislead the investigators. She even suggested that two masked intruders had broken into Travis's home and attacked both of them, sparing her life for reasons she couldn't explain. The FBI was unmoved by her desperate attempt to shift the blame. Despite her repeated denials, the evidence against Jodi was overwhelming. The photos, the road trip, the jealous outbursts, everything pointed to her. But it was the final piece of forensic evidence that sealed her fate. A bloody handprint had been found at the crime scene, a mix of both Travis and Jodi's DNA. There was no escaping the truth. With this conclusive proof in hand, the FBI had enough to arrest Jodi Arias. The once flirtatious, seemingly innocent woman now stood accused of one of the most brutal betrayals in recent history. As the FBI escorted her away, the weight of her crime began to settle in. She was no longer the girlfriend scorned, but the prime suspect in a case that would shock the world. For the investigators, the case was far from over. They had unraveled the lies, but the trial that lay ahead promised to be a dramatic and highly publicized affair. The FBI had exposed the truth behind Travis's tragic end, but Jodi's ability to manipulate and deceive would soon take center stage in court, where the battle for justice was only just beginning. In a courtroom echoing with the weight of tragedy, the trial of Jodi Arias became a national spectacle, a drama that would hold the public in its thrall for months. Jodi Arias, charged with the brutal murder of her ex-boyfriend, Travis Alexander, faced a jury in a case rife with emotional intensity and legal intrigue. The trial, held in Maricopa County Superior Court, began in January 2013. Jodi Arias' defense team mounted a controversial strategy, presenting the case as one of self-defense. They claimed that Arias had killed Alexander in a fit of rage after he allegedly attacked her. However, the prosecution, led by attorney Juan Martinez, portrayed a far different scenario, one of premeditated murder driven by jealousy and obsession. Martinez's presentation was a relentless dissection of Arias' life and actions. He showcased graphic crime scene photos, revealing the brutality of Alexander's murder. He had been stabbed multiple times, shot in the head, and left in a shower. The prosecution argued that Arias' meticulous planning and the evidence of a severe crime scene contradicted her claim of self-defense. Witnesses included friends and family members of Alexander, who painted a picture of a man beloved and full of potential. Their testimonies revealed Alexander as a charismatic individual whose life was tragically cut short. His friends spoke of his kindness, his ambitions, and his devotion to his faith, elements that made his murder all the more poignant and shocking. On the stand, Arias' demeanor fluctuated dramatically. She oscillated between calm, collected responses and emotional outbursts. Her testimony was a disjointed narrative of fear and regret. She described a relationship marked by intense passion and volatile arguments, but struggled to provide a coherent account of the night of the murder. Her shifting explanations and the inconsistencies in her testimony only served to fuel the prosecution's argument that her actions were premeditated. The courtroom drama reached its zenith when the defense introduced a segment of Arias' interrogation footage, where she expressed deep remorse and claimed that she was a victim of abuse. The prosecution, however, highlighted the strategic manipulation in her statements. Martinez accused her of fabricating a self-defense story to avoid responsibility for her actions. As the trial progressed, the public was riveted by the interplay of emotions and legal strategy. The media frenzy surrounding the case amplified the tension, turning the courtroom into a stage for a tragic drama that extended beyond the legal arena. The verdict and its aftermath. The verdict was rendered on May 8, 2013. The jury found Jodi Arias guilty of first-degree murder. The decision came after a grueling 5-month trial and was met with a mixture of relief and sorrow by those who had followed the case. The jury's conclusion was clear. Arias had not acted in self-defense, but had committed an act of calculated murder. In the sentencing phase, the courtroom atmosphere remained electric. The prosecution sought the death penalty, arguing that the heinous nature of the crime warranted the harshest punishment. The defense, however, appealed for mercy, portraying Arias as a troubled individual deserving of a life sentence without parole. On May 15, 2013, the jury was deadlocked on the death penalty, leading to a mistrial on that count. In April 2014, the judge sentenced Arias to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The sentencing marked the end of a tragic chapter, but also served as a sobering reminder of the consequences of unchecked passion and violence. The aftermath of the trial left a lasting impact on all involved. The Alexander family endured an immense emotional toll, struggling to reconcile their loss with the public spectacle of the trial. Jodi Arias, once a figure of media fascination, became a symbol of the devastating consequences of a life marred by obsession and violence. In conclusion, what life lessons can we learn from the story of Travis Alexander and Jodi Arias? 1. Beware the dangers of obsession. From the moment their paths crossed, the bond between Travis and Jodi was marked by a fervent intensity that would ultimately become their undoing. Jodi's obsessive love transformed from a burning passion into a consuming fire, devastating everything in its path. This story serves as a dire warning. Obsession is a perilous force that distorts reality and erases boundaries. It teaches us to recognize the thin line between intense affection and destructive fixation. When passion veers into obsession, it can engulf lives and lead to ruin. 2. The crucial need for honest communication. Travis and Jodi's relationship was marred by secrecy and miscommunication. The silence that followed their arguments was not merely a pause, but a prelude to tragedy. Their failure to communicate openly and honestly allowed misunderstandings to fester and escalate into violence. This narrative implores us to understand that effective communication is the lifeblood of any relationship. Avoiding difficult conversations or concealing true feelings only sows the seeds of discord. By addressing issues openly, we can prevent conflicts from spiraling out of control and safeguard our relationships from similar fates. 3. The importance of emotional awareness. The courtroom revealed the jagged edges of Jodi's emotional landscape, a landscape that was as tumultuous as it was tragic. Her inability to manage her own emotions and her unstable responses highlight the catastrophic potential of emotional neglect. This tale teaches us that understanding and managing our emotions is not a luxury, but a necessity. We must confront our inner turmoil, seek help when needed, and ensure that our emotional struggles do not lead to harm. Emotional awareness and intervention are crucial for maintaining our own well-being and that of others. The destructive nature of jealousy. Jealousy, a seemingly minor emotion, loomed large in this tragic tale, morphing into a monstrous force that drove Jodi to commit unthinkable acts. The story serves as a powerful reminder of jealousy's capacity to cloud judgment and incite irrational behavior. It warns us that unchecked jealousy can spiral into destructive actions. By recognizing and addressing jealousy before it takes root, we can prevent it from poisoning our relationships and leading to irreversible damage. The perils of manipulation. Jodi's manipulation of Travis was a key factor in their tragic end. Her deceit and attempts to control were not just personal flaws, but destructive forces that contributed to the violence. This story highlights the corrosive impact of manipulation and deceit in relationships. It underscores the importance of authenticity and integrity, showing that trust cannot be built on falsehoods and control. True, healthy connections are grounded in honesty and mutual respect. 6. The power of forgiveness and healing. Amid the devastation, the Alexander family's journey towards forgiveness and healing stands out as a beacon of hope. Their ability to seek peace, despite the profound loss, illustrates the transformative power of forgiveness. This tale teaches us that while we may be unable to change the past, we have the strength to heal and move forward. Forgiveness and personal healing are vital steps in overcoming grief and finding peace amidst tragedy. In conclusion, I've made a significant update to how I share stories. From now on, each story will end with a clear summary of the lessons learned, providing deeper insights and takeaways. If you find these lessons valuable, please like and subscribe to support the channel and stay tuned for more impactful content. Thank you for your continued support.